Greetings. I am Tiffany Dillard, your former mathematics academic coach and your current district math coordinator. Today I'm here to present a data overview for Columbia High School covering 9th and 12th grade courses. The purpose of today's meeting is to examine how we, Columbia High School leadership team, support instruction and increase student achievement by connecting and analyzing school-wide data. We, we will accomplish it by reviewing student achievement on all Georgia Milestones EOCs in comparison to the district and state for the last 3 years. We will review student achievement on coordinate algebra and analytic geometry EOCs compared to the district and state. We will identify strengths and weaknesses at Columbia High School to support student growth. We will identify possible initiatives to support math growth at Columbia High School. And finally, we will prepare the groundwork for intentional data analysis with next steps to improve student achievement. Before we get into the data, let's look at who we are. Over the last 3 years, we have grown the number of teachers in the building. In the 2015-16 school year, we had 69 teachers. In the last year review, 2017-2018 school year, we had 74 teachers. We grew by 5 teachers. However, the number of women teachers decreased by 5 and the number of men teachers increased by 10. This was a deliberate measure. When Dr. Davis became the new principal at the beginning of the 2016-17 school year, she wanted to increase the male presence in the building. A concerted effort was made to find highly qualified male educators for all roles. The racial makeup of the staff remains primarily Black, which is very similar to the student population. Approximately 10% of the student body is comprised of white teachers, while the other 5% is Hispanic or Asian, leaving 85% being African American. The educational levels of our school is diverse. Teachers have earned degrees from bachelor's degree through the doctorate degree, while most of the teachers having a master's degree. The total has been 35 teachers with master's degrees for the last 2 years. 3 teachers with a doctorate retired after the 2015-16 school year. Most of the teacher experiences are between 1 and 20 years. The turnover for teachers is relatively low. In 2017-2018 is the only year that the math department has been fully staffed with certified teachers since the 2013-14 school year. According to our continuous school improvement plan, our school improvement goals for the 2018-2021 cycle are increasing academic achievement in math, science, social studies, and ELA that are measured by the EOCs, ensuring all students are college and career ready, and decrease the achievement gap between students with disabilities and general education students. Now, why are we reviewing the data? Reviewing data is important because it drives the instruction, it allows differentiation for all students, and it provides self-monitoring for teachers and students. I believe this is one of the keys to our success. Before we dive into the achievement data, let's look at who we serve. As you are aware, Columbia High School has a student population who is predominantly Black. The percentage has declined slightly from 98% to 96% over the last 3 school years. The gender distribution is almost equal, with there being 51 to 52% of the population being girls at any given time. The school offers 3 major educational programs: regular general education, the exceptional education, and the gifted or tag education. The percentage of students being served through the special education program has increased from 19% to 23%. The talented and gifted program have seen a percentage of students stay relatively the same, varying from 7 to 5, then to 6%. The majority of the students are being served through our general education program. The 3 circle graphs on this page represent the discipline rates over the last 3 years. There has been a sharp decline in the number of students receiving either ISS or OSS. Students receiving no discipline at all rose from 38.7% of the student population to a whopping 73.4% of the student population. This can be contributed to several factors. The main factors were implementing restorative practices school-wide, reviewing and revamping the school offenses with a more appropriate consequences, and having more male presence in the building to diffuse situations. There is a different atmosphere in the building. Violent offenses such as fights and bringing weapons on campus have decreased. As we review the comparative data with the district and state, let's consider the following. What trends are consistent for all three levels? What trends are inconsistent for all three levels? What inferences can you make? And what other information do you think we need in order to make informed decisions? The ELCs for ELA are given for ninth grade literature and composition and 11th grade American literature. Historically, our scores showing developing or above have been lower than the district and state. Fortunately, our percentage of students reaching at least the developing level have increased from 41% to 62.5%. The district and state have increased as well, but the gap has decreased 15 percentage points between us and the state and 12 percentage points between us and the district, which means that we are increasing our scores at a faster rate. The ELCs for math are given for coordinate algebra and analytic geometry courses. These are the math courses scheduled for the typical 9th and 10th grade students respectively. The coordinate algebra scores took a dip in 2015-2016. However, it's been a steady increase since that time. One of the reasons for the decline in 2015-2016 is the team was missing a certified teacher for the second semester. The class was served by a co-teacher and sometimes a long-term sub. The district increased during that same time period from 57.2% to 63.5%. The state had a small increase from 69% to 69.6% during that same period. Analytic geometry scores increased from 2014-15 to the 2015-2016 school year, and declined sharply from the 2016-17 year to 17-18, from 42% to 28%. During the 17-18 school year, the team lost 2 members who were not replaced. The classes were served by co-teachers, substitute teachers, and an academic coach. However, that does not replace the quality of instruction from highly qualified teachers. Both the district and state saw 5 percentage points decreases as well that year. However, the cause for their decreases have not been determined. The assessment and scoring did not change that year, so we know that those are not viable causes. The ELCs for science are given in biology and physical science. Typically, they are 9th and 10th grade courses respectively. At Columbia, we made some changes on how we offer both courses, and its impact is obvious in the data. With physical science being the ELC with the worst scores, the administrators and science leaders in the building had some discussions on what can be done differently. Since physical science is not a mandatory course for graduation, it was decided to discontinue that course and have all students take conceptual physics. That is why there are no scores for the last 2 years. The district and state show continual improvement in this course. However, there is a huge achievement gap between the district and state. Nevertheless, the percentage gap was decreased by 5 percentage points. In biology, there was a decrease from 2015-16 and 2016-17. During the 16-17 school year, a decision was made to move biology to 10th grade for students on the general education and exceptional education programs. This reduced the number of students taking the ELCs for the average 9th grader from 3 ELCs to 2 ELCs. The students in the Magnet and TAS program still take the course as 9th graders. The scores rose again with this change. The district and state showed continued improvement in this course, just like physical science. The ELCs for social studies are given in U.S. history and economics. They are usually taken in the 11th and 12th grade respectively. In U.S. history, all 3 levels experienced the same rise in 2015-2016, to followed by a decline in 2016-17, then an increase again. The district and state have similar numbers, with Columbia scoring about 15 percentage points from the district the last 3 years. For economics, Columbia performed better than the district in 2015-16 school year with 86.7% of students earning developing or higher compared to the district at 73% and the state at 72.5%. Unfortunately, that did not remain the same. Since that year, economics has steadily declined to 60.7%. When speaking with the social studies leaders, one of the contributing factors is adding new members to the economic team who did not have the experience of teaching that course, which resulted in the students not performing at the same level. Another area utilized to determine a school's success is the graduation rate. This slide looks at the 4 and 5-year cohort rates. Columbia's 4-year rate has continually increased over the last 3 years from 66.9% to 73.2%. The district and state have the same trend, with district being higher than Columbia and the state being higher than DeKalb. Columbia has closed the gap between itself and the district from 13% to 8%. For the 5-year cohort, Columbia rates have fluctuated over the last 3 years, while the district and state grew every year. The last year, Columbia's 5-year graduation rate was 70.5%, compared to DeKalb having 78.5% and the state of Georgia being 82.8%. Another factor to consider in graduating students is the dropout rate. Columbia's rate has decreased by 39%, from 7.4% to 4.5% over the last 3 years. DeKalb County and the state of Georgia remain relatively the same. DeKalb went from 5.8 to 5.7%, and the state went from 3.6 to 3.7%. Now let's summarize our strengths and weaknesses. Some of our strengths include the graduation rate for the 4-year cohort have continued to increase in the last 3 years. This coincides with the decline in the dropout rate. Discipline. Students are not spending as much time in ISS and OSS. Combined with the lower dropout rate, more students are in class receiving instruction. And finally, coordinate algebra continued to improve over the last 3 years with students earning developing or better. Now let's summarize some of our weaknesses. All the other EOC's courses either had decreasing numbers or inconsistent with their increases, their gains and decreases. One of my emphases is that teachers are not effectively utilizing instructional practices that are proven to work. As we take a deeper look at the math courses, coordinate algebra and analytic geometry, I want you to look for our strengths and weaknesses in this area as well. Here are a few questions to consider. What data stood out to you? What trends do you notice? What are the strengths and weaknesses presented in this data? Where do we need to improve? And what questions do you have based on the data presented? We will discuss these questions and other comments and questions you may have at the end of this presentation. Utilizing the same data presented for the math EOCs earlier in this presentation, this slide displays the percentage of students by achievement bands. Beginning learner is a learner having a conversion score of 68 or below. Developing learner has a score of 69 to 79%. Proficient learner has a score of 80 to 91, and distinguished is a 92 or above. The beginner learner group has steadily decreased from 72% to 51%. The developing has increased steadily from 24% to 44%. The proficient learner has varied from 3.6 to 6.09, been down to 5.05 over the last 3 years. However, this percentage is only a few students. The most were 17 students, and there were no distinguished learners any of the 3 years. Unlike coordinate algebra, analytic geometry had the opposite results. The beginner learner group increased from 57.5% to 71.96%. The developing and proficient levels decreased over the same period. Again, no distinguished learners are represented. So what this data is showing that for coordinate algebra, we are actually moving our kids from the beginning phase to the developing phase. So we're moving in the right direction. However, we're losing students that were once developing or proficient who are now showing beginning levels for analytic geometry. The next 6 slides are the standards mastered by unit for the district created benchmarks. Red represents the percentage not mastered, and blue represents the percentage mastered for a particular standard. For coordinate algebras, units 1 and 2 are displayed. Students master more skills in Unit 2 than Unit 1. The teachers continue working with students on prerequisite skills, and some of those skills were developed in 8th grade as well. Unit 1 and Unit 2 are involve solving, creating, and interpreting linear equations and inequalities. Unit 3 was a continuation of the previous units and just adding exponential equations. Unit 4 covered data analysis. As it shows, students did not master interpreting data. Unit 5 and 6 continued the trend. In reviewing other aspects of the reports from Illuminate, students are able to master basic recall problems. However, problems that require strategic thinking and reasoning remains a huge hurdle for our students. Analytic geometry has similar outcomes as coordinate algebra, where many students were not mastering our standards, and if they did master any standards, it was only the low. Looking at Unit 3 and 4 is showing a similar pattern as Unit 1 and Unit 2. And then Unit 5 showed that no standards were mastered. After Unit 5, there are no analytic geometry scores for Unit 6 or Unit 7, which means that the teachers did not give those district benchmarks. Possible math initiatives. Implement with fidelity the curriculum and instruction initiative. The curriculum and instruction initiative for this school year is from theory to practice, individual and collaborative planning, which is honing in on TEKS number 2 instructional planning. Using the modules provided from curriculum instruction, if teachers implement those effective planning strategies, then they should be able to have more engaging classroom with great appropriate assignments. Another initiative possibility is implement with fidelity the prior math initiatives, which includes using research-based strategies such as Payer's problem solving, Newman's prompt, and the 3-read protocol. Another initiative is to make sure that the math academic coach is working with teachers and implementing coaching cycles to help teachers with their craft. And finally, having data digs through collaborative planning for teachers to take ownership of their data and getting an understanding of what their data is saying so they can make more informed decisions. So individually, I want you to reflect. I want you to answer the following questions below. Make us on your piece of paper next to the green square, what are 3 things that are square with you? Meaning, what are 3 things that you understand without a shadow of a doubt? Next to your yellow circle, what are 2 things or questions still circling around in your head? And then next to the red arrow, write what 1 line or 1 sentence that summarizes your thoughts. In summary, school leaders know that student achievement data offers invaluable support for making good decisions about instruction, but how that data is used is critical. To gain a deeper understanding of students' learning needs, teachers need to collect data from multiple sources such as annual state assessment, district benchmarks and school assessments, classroom performance data, and other relevant data. A district-wide data system allows teachers to aggregate data by classroom, content areas, or assignment type to identify patterns in performance. As this data is further interpreted, it will allow our school leaders to identify the strengths and weaknesses of the school. As we examine the data, the leadership team is able to develop instructional strategies and plans to improve instruction to help all students achieve. So as we continue on this road of understanding our data, we will have a discussion that covers the following. Now that we know our school data, where do we want to be and how can we get there? The leadership team has already created our continuous school improvement plan for the next 3 years. However, because it's continuous, that means as we see the need to, we're able to tweak it. What are our next steps? We need to really implement our weekly data talks versus just saying that we're having data talks. Let's look at the department collaborative planning that is already in place for 3 days a week and seeing what can we do to tweak that. And as leaders, we need to help strengthen our educators' toolkit. But what should be in that toolkit? And then plan. Let's really take heed to the CNI initiative for this school year and become the best planners that we can be. I appreciate your time, and I will send this PowerPoint out to you all so you can reference it. Thank you.